Ghost of the Silent Hill. Session 1. Chapter 5. Lonely in Death. Sagar had recently been transferred to Chamba, an enchanting Himalayan town. Situated on a mountain ledge between Dauladhar and Zanskar ranges with a panoramic view of the meandering spurting river Ravi a few hundred feet below. Sagar had an added reason for joy when he received the orders for the transfer. Chamba was his hometown, his birthplace. He had spent his entire childhood and school days here. He had left it to join the undergraduate studies at Jalandhar because there was no college in Chamba. Immediately after college he got a job and life became demanding. He had hardly been home for more than a week ever since. Even when he'd got married 5 years ago, he had taken just 10 days off. Now he was coming back home once again, with his wife and 3-year-old son, Ankur. His wife Sushma was expecting their second child. His parents lived in a charming 3-storied wood and grey shale house. Sagar was their second son among 4. With all of them settled in different towns, the parents had been living alone for many years. They were now happy to have one of their sons coming to live with them. The unoccupied ground floor was cleaned, aired, and made ready for the family. Typical of the houses in Chamba, the entire topmost floor was a massive dining hall with a large kitchen in one corner. This vast space was exclusively for community feasts, locally called dom. The south-facing wall of this hall, that extended into the kitchen, was lined with series of small windows that presented a panoramic view of the sunrise and the sunset, and also of the famous Shagan, the bazaars around it, Akhan Chandi, the erstwhile palace of the king, the top chhatris of Lakshmi Narayan Mandir, and the red flags atop Kamunda Devi Mandir, flapping in the breeze. Shagan was a well-maintained multi-use grassy field, the largest flat area of the town, which was a playground for children, a meeting ground for grown-ups, a place for holding public and political meetings, etc. Once a year, the famous Minjar Fair was held here. Sagar had so many memories attached to Shagan. So much of his childhood had been spent here, playing or chatting with friends. Now, after a really long gap, he was going to be back to this place of his old connections. He had always missed the warmth of his typical hill house with a slanting roof of grey slate, like most houses here, imparting the town its striking aura. On a cool August evening of the year 1965, Sagar reached Chamba with his family. After dumping their luggage in the portico, a happy chit-chat with parents on the first floor veranda, cups of hot masala chai, a special meal in the kitchen that his mother had prepared to welcome them, the family moved to the ground floor for the night. It had been a tiring journey, and after taking out the bare essentials from their luggage, they got into the bed. Ankur had gone to sleep earlier than usual. As Sushma extended her hand to switch off the lamp, Sagar stopped her. "No, Sush, let it be on for some time." Sushma looked at him in surprise. "Why, Sagar? What happened today? You always want the light to be switched off as soon as you hit the bed." "I don't know why. I don't want it to be dark just yet." "Are you okay?" "Sort of." "Please, Sagar, tell me. What's the matter?" "I don't know, Sush. I have this strange feeling. I am truly happy to be back here. It has always been the only real home for me. But I have this sad, distressing feeling deep in my heart. I don't know why I feel like that. There's no reason." Sagar rubbed his forehead with his fingers. "You are tired. We have had a long day today. Even I am exhausted." Sushma pulled the quilt up to her neck and closed her eyes. "No, Sushma, it has nothing to do with fatigue. I am used to traveling a lot, you know that. It is a feeling, a depressing, dismal feeling, that I have never felt before. Do you think it has something to do with your heart? Maybe you should see a doctor tomorrow. You are talking as if I am going to have a heart attack. It is not that. It is just a feeling. I feel sad. Doctors can't cure sadness, can they? It is not like I am suffering from depression. I was fine till dinner time. Then it must be the food that you have eaten. I saw how you were eating. With gusto. To sleep's turn thin his duce, sa. At pre-mind. Oh, Oris under savid. Head. Off the lamp. But sleep wouldn't come easily to Sagar. He felt awfully restless. He could find no reason for his gloom. He had always been a happy-go-lucky person. Was thrilled to be back home. You are tired. We have had a long day today. Even I am exhausted. Sushma pulled the quilt up to her neck and closed her eyes. No, Sushma, it has nothing to do with fatigue. I am used to traveling a lot, you know that. It is a feeling, a depressing, dismal feeling, that I have never felt before. Do you think it has something to do with your heart? Maybe you should see a doctor tomorrow. You are talking as if I am going to have a heart attack. It is not that. It is just a feeling. I feel sad. Doctors can't cure sadness, can they? It is not like I am suffering from depression. I was fine till dinner time. Then it must be the food that you have eaten. I saw how you were eating. With gusto. To sleep's turn thin his duce, sa. At pre-mind. Oh, Oris under savid. Head. Off the lamp. But sleep wouldn't come easily to Sagar. He felt awfully restless. He could find no reason for his gloom. He had always been a happy-go-lucky person. Was thrilled to be back home. The next morning, he woke up fatigued. He was to join his new office as its head, but there was no excitement about it anymore. What had gone wrong with him in just a few hours? When he had landed here last evening, he had been full of enthusiasm. He wanted to begin his career with a renewed verve. As the day progressed, Sagar began to settle down. The new office, meeting his new staff, getting to know the nitty-gritties of his work, beginning new assignments, it all kept him busy throughout the day. By the evening he was once again his original self, calm and easygoing. He returned home in better spirits. He played with his son, discussed the day's affairs with his wife, chatted with his parents over cups of tea, and returned to help Sushma set up their room. All done, Sushma declared that she was going to the kitchen to feed Ankur, before the adults had their dinner. Come up after a little rest. I don't have the energy to run up and down. I'm tired after unpacking the whole day. And with these instructions she left him alone. As soon as Sagar lay down, the day's weariness began to overpower him. He dozed off. He had been asleep for barely 10 minutes when he woke up with a start. Someone had woken him up. He had distinctly felt someone shaking him, calling out his name. He looked around in a daze. The room was icy and empty. Sagar shivered and reluctantly got off the bed. He felt very tired and very depressed. Sadness was all around, hovering like a thick fog, enveloping him, saturating him. Faint sounds were coming from the top floors. He felt an intense need to escape from his room, from isolation. Putting on his slippers, he rushed out to join his family. He didn't even stop to shut the door. Sushma, why did you run away hurriedly after shaking me awake? He complained, huffing and puffing the moment he found her in the kitchen. She was helping his mother lay dinner. Ankur sat on a corner mat, playing with his toys. Waking you up? When? Sushma asked without diverting her attention from her task. Why, hadn't you come down to wake me up just 5 minutes ago? No, Sagar, I haven't left the kitchen ever since I came up half an hour ago. Isn't it, Maji? Sagar's mother nodded to affirm. His father walked in at that moment. Seeing him, Sushma smiled. Perhaps Daddy G had gone down to wake you up. Gone where? Sagar's father asked in astonishment. Dad, had you come down to my room 5 minutes ago to wake me up? Sagar asked doubtfully. His father never liked waking anyone up, he knew. One of his set rules was that everyone should be allowed to sleep as much as their body needed. Why would I do that, knowing well you are tired after the day's hard work? After a pause to ponder, he said, I haven't been downstairs ever since my return from the market in the afternoon. I have been reading my book since then. He sat down on a stool with a decisive nod. You must have been dreaming then, Sushma offered an explanation. Sagar wasn't sure anymore. Perhaps Sushma was right. Yet the feeling that someone had shaken him awake was so strong. Was there a point getting disturbed over it? Wow. What have you been cooking, Maji? I am starving. It was a sensible diversion to get composed. The dinner was great. His mother had cooked his favorite food and the kitchen was suffused with the fragrance of exotic spices and steaming rice. He was relaxed and happy up here. The fire in the fireplace, lively chit-chat, and everyone's company comforted him. He sat talking for an hour after dinner and would have continued if Sushma hadn't reminded him that it was getting late. And he was to leave for office early next morning. As he followed Sushma downstairs, holding Ankur in his arms, Sagar felt the unexplained sadness return. He had a strong urge to return upstairs. Wouldn't Sushma mock him for his timidity? He followed her like a compliant puppy. Putting Ankur to bed, he checked all the doors. He then cuddled close to his wife and held her tightly in his arms. That made him feel better. More than the warmth of her body, it was her reassuring presence that did the trick. Within no time, he was in a deep sleep and snoring softly. The following few days passed without a hitch. The work at his office was going fine. Sagar spent most of his evening time on upper floors and slept in Sushma's arms like a baby. The initial depression began to ebb. Perhaps he had been exhausted after winding up work at one place and starting afresh at another. A fortnight later, on their second Sunday at Chamba, he had this sudden urge to visit a temple. Kamunda Devi Mandir atop Shah Matter range of hills had been his favorite, a place he used to visit often with his friends. He loved the uphill climb, passing through a silent pristine forest. Sushma was happy at the proposal and hurriedly packed their picnic lunch. Ankur rushed around in excitement. He badly needed an outing. It was quite a long walk. Sagar was hot and tired after carrying Ankur on his shoulders all the way up. After offering prayers in the temple, they found a shady spot to enjoy their picnic lunch. Today they were the only visitors at the temple. The priest had closed the temple doors and had gone to his lodgings at the back, probably for lunch. Presently, Sagar began to get perturbed. He surveyed his surroundings. Something was around that was making him uneasy. He could strongly sense it. It was then that he noted the steel box heavy with parathas move slowly. The movement was very mild, just about an inch, but distinct. He stared dumbfounded. Even a strong breeze couldn't have moved the box thus. And it wasn't breezy. Then how did the box move? Who did this? He looked at Sushma. She was feeding Ankur, unmindful of what had happened. Was there someone else here? Sagar was flummoxed. Sushma, if you are done, let's go back. We must reach home before it gets dark. Sushma looked up at the sun. It was way far from the horizon. They could have easily spent an hour more, but she quietly nodded. Soon after she finished eating, she packed up. Lately, Sagar's behavior had begun to intrigue her. He had been acting odd ever since they had come to this town. Something was just not right. All through their return trip, Sagar kept turning to look back. He had this funny feeling of being followed. This was giving creeps to Sushma. She too turned a number of times but found nothing. There was no one around, then. Why was Sagar behaving as if they were in danger of being ambushed? Once back home, Sushma and Ankur went upstairs. Sagar decided to stretch his back and lay down on his bed. The light of the day was slowly fading. And soon it would be dinner time. He could rest till then. The window of the room was open and the fresh breeze brought in slight October chill of the mountains. The fragrance of the blooming jasmine bushes in a flower bed right outside the window seeped in too. Though Sagar was enjoying the fresh breeze, he was shivering from the cold. He needed to close the window. But when he turned to look at it, he saw a shadow there. A sudden chill entered the room. Who's there? There was no answer but the shadow dissolved. Perhaps someone was paying them a visit and had walked past the window. Sagar marched out. There was no one outside. The miserable feeling was returning gradually, annoyingly, alarmingly. He closed the window and rushed upstairs. After 10 steps, the stairs curved. And when Sagar reached the curve, he distinctly felt someone tugging at his shirt. Then an icy cold hand tightened around his, for a brief moment. His hand jerked away instinctively. The stairs were empty. Then who was there? It was all getting so weird. He felt a shiver run down his spine. He shuddered and raced up, covering 2 steps at a time. As usual, his mother and wife were busy with dinner preparations. Ankur was playing in a corner. Sagar went to sit on a low wooden stool, wiping his sweaty brows with his shirt sleeve. His mind was troubled. There was someone or something around here, he was sure this time. And he was the only one who was feeling its presence. Rest of the family was totally unaware of it. Or was it simply his imagination? What imagination? I wasn't even thinking much when I saw the shadow and the feeling of someone holding my hand. How can I imagine such things? Lost in these thoughts, he ate his dinner abstractedly. Why are you so quiet today? Sushma asked. Just tired, he responded evasively. Sagar had a sleepless night. He was worried and frightened. There was no explanation as to why something mysterious was happening around him. But he couldn't discuss his suspicion with anyone, not even with Sushma. What was the point? Either they would be skeptical or get unnecessarily alarmed. Monday morning began in low spirits. He tried to be normal but Sushma was quick to notice his fallen face. Don't go to office if you are unwell, she suggested. No, I can't stay at home. I am better off in the office. Sushma glared at him. What kind of statement was that? He had never been so rude. Why, do you have any problem staying at home with us? No, Sushma, it is not that. I meant I can't stay at home with so much work lying pending in my office. But once in office, he couldn't devote even half his attention to work. He remained uneasy and agitated, and at times verbally pounced at his subordinates without reason. He left office very early, realizing that if he stayed on, he would be branded the most obnoxious boss. Arriving at home, he straightaway went to bed. Sushma voiced in concern, "You are not well, Sagar. I'll call a doctor." "There's no need. I just need to sleep and I'll be okay." When he woke up 2 hours later, he immediately picked up Ankur sleeping next to him, and requested Sushma to follow him upstairs to his parents' rooms. Let's spend the entire evening with them. We have hardly spent any time with them ever since we've come. Sushma followed him, frowning at his statement. It wasn't true. They had been spending at least 2 hours each evening with them. Moreover, Ankur stayed up for at least half a day enjoying his grandparents' indulgence. But, if it made Sagar happy to be upstairs with his parents the entire evening, it was fine with her. Though, she would want a few private moments with Sagar. Ever since they had come to Chamba, he had changed. He used to be so loving and attentive to her needs. She couldn't grasp what had brought such a sudden change in him. Once upstairs, Sagar became calm and was in a better mood. He even offered to help in the kitchen. He cut vegetables and then sat chatting while his mother and wife cooked meals. He lingered a little longer after dinner. Sushma had to remind him that it was time for the parents to retire, and so should they. Ankur had been asleep on the floor mat and needed to be put to bed. Though he didn't want to, Sagar got up. Picking up Ankur, he followed Sushma outside. The moment he landed on the ground floor, the uneasy feeling returned. He slept cuddled with Sushma. Her presence was like a blanket of comfort. For the next couple of days, much to Sagar's relief, nothing untoward happened. It was the end of December. The mountains had had their first snowfall. Chamba was buried under 2 feet of snow and reeling in an extreme cold wave. The temperatures plummeted below zero at midnight. On one such shivering cold night, around midnight, Sagar needed to use the toilet. He dilly-dallied for as long as he could. Getting out of the warm quilt was agonizing. I wonder why the toilet is built outdoors. I must get one built indoors. He got up in a half-asleep state and put on his woolen gown. Slipping his feet into winter slippers, he stepped out. The white snow blanket glowed silver in the moonlight. The dark branches of the sweet lime tree in the corner of the veranda, now heavy with layers of snow, swayed gently in a mild breeze, posing a stark contrast to the still scene around. Sagar put his foot on the first step and froze. A shadow slowly emerged from under the tree. It was a vague outline of a tall, lean man. Or was it just a shadow? Where was the person? He looked around to see if there was someone around whose shadow was falling at that point. The tall stone wall that separated their house from the street obstructed any outside view. The 2-leafed main door was shut and locked from inside. There was a straight wall of their neighbor's house, behind the shadow. Apart from the moonlight, there was no other light that could have formed the shadow. Whose shadow was it? The shadow was still, watching him intently. Sagar had barely stood there for 10 seconds, before his sleepy head realized that the shadow had not formed on the ground or the wall. It was in the air, erect and still. Then it began to move towards him. He wanted to run, but found his legs frozen. He felt wetness between his legs. When the shadow was barely 5 feet away, he came to life. Jumping back indoors, he shut the door with a bang. The noise woke Sushma up. She raised her head from the pillow and found Sagar fumbling with the latch. He was shivering violently. What's the matter, Sagar? What happened? She switched on the table lamp. There's something outside, in our courtyard, he stuttered. Who? I don't know, a shadow. Let me see. No, don't, there is a ghost. Before Sagar could stop Sushma, she had already opened the door to peep out. There's nobody out here, Sagar, she declared after a quick scrutiny. But her heart was leaping against her ribs. Please shut the door, Sushma. Just shut it, Sagar's voice was frantic. Closing the door, Sushma turned to face Sagar. He was extremely pale, and shaking uncontrollably. She held his hand and led him to their room. I'll go up and get you a glass of hot milk, she declared. No, you aren't going anywhere. Sagar tightened his hold on Sushma's hand and stopped her. Just stay with me, Sushma. I am scared. Scared of what, Sagar? I don't know. Something has been happening ever since we came here. There is something that is bothering me. I have been feeling a presence around me, but today, just now I saw it too. Saw what? Sushma was alarmed. Shadow of a man, just a shadow. It moved towards me, came close. But I didn't see anything. You haven't been feeling anything, but I have. Sushma shuddered. Sagar, you are scaring me. I am scared too, Sush. I'm the one being targeted. I don't know why. I don't know what to do. After an eerie silence, Sushma said, we can't sit over the matter and do nothing. We need help. We will need to consult someone. Let's talk to the temple priest tomorrow. He may have some solution to the problem. Sagar nodded, a little less agitated. He changed into fresh clothes and got into the bed. Sushma held him in her arms, and together they tried to get some sleep. Sagar took the next day off from work, and right after breakfast they headed for the temple. The priest suggested holding prayers in the house. The following Sunday, they organized a havan on the ground floor. Sagar's parents were out of station attending a family wedding, and that suited the couple. They didn't want them to be alarmed. The priest prayed for the peace of any wandering troubled spirit that was drifting in the vicinity of the house, admonishing it to leave the realm of the living. Sagar fervently prayed to the unknown to stop troubling him and let him live in peace. Things improved thereafter. Sagar felt as if a dense cloud of gloom hanging over him had been blown away. Spring came and cold slowly subsided. Life was now a smooth flowing stream of calm waters. Then one night Sagar had a peculiar dream. The dream took him back to his childhood, to the time when he was a teenage boy of about 16. He was playing a hockey match in Chagan. Sagar was the right-back player, and his best friend Shiv was playing from the center-forward position. It was a tough match, the score was 0-0, and they all were making an effort to win the match. A group of young girls were watching and cheering their game, and the boys were trying to impress them. He passed the ball to Shiv, who ran with all his might, dodging the opponents, and scored a goal. At the same moment the referee blew the whistle. The match had ended. Sagar and his teammates shouted and jumped in joy. Then Shiv came to him and said, "The match is over. We won. Come, let's go." Precisely at that moment Sagar woke up. He was sweating as if he had been playing a real match. He smiled to himself. The memory of those good old days had made him feel nostalgic. How beautiful, how carefree were the days of youth. He lay on his back, recalling them. After a few minutes of pondering over his school days, Sagar turned on his side and went off to sleep again. The next evening, he brought up the topic during his conversation with Sushma. Sush, many of my childhood friends are probably still here, in Chamba. I want to go to meet them. How do you know they all are still here? Their jobs might have taken them to different parts of the country, or maybe abroad. You are right, Sush. But some may still be here. Others, I can get to them through their parents. I know where they lived, and like our parents, many may still be living in the same houses. He smiled happily. I have hardly been in touch with my old friends ever since I left Chamba. Though I made new friends in college, but Sushma noted the faraway look in his eyes, nostalgia dripped through them. There's a special bond with your school friends, with whom you grew up. I want to re-establish those bonds. Sure, Sagar. I understand your longing. Even I miss my school friends so much. God knows where they are now. But we should definitely try to find your friends. But the coming days were too busy with loads of work at office. Most evenings Sagar came home late from work. 10 days passed thus. Then the dream recurred. The same game of hockey at Chagan, the last-minute goal by Shiv, joy for having won the match, and then Shiv coming to him and saying, "Come with me, Sagar. Let's go." Sagar woke up immediately after the dream. He quietly lay thinking about those good old days. He recalled that this was the last match they had played together after finishing high school. A day after this match, results had been declared and all boys had gone their ways for further studies. Sagar had joined a graduate college at Jalandhar and Shiv went to Jammu. They were in touch for a while, but then had slowly drifted apart. What a wonderful friend Shiv was, Sagar recalled. He remembered how once a vicious player of the opponent team had hit him hard on his ankle with a hockey stick. His ankle had swollen profusely and he had been in terrible pain. Shiv had sat with Sagar throughout the night, talking to him to keep him distracted from the pain, applying ointments. By the morning he had felt much better. Where was Shiv now? Sagar wondered. His parents used to live in Sapri Mohalla, behind the Akhan Chandi Palace. They were probably still there. He would go to meet them and also check on Shiv's whereabouts. He must be married by now, and working somewhere. The following Saturday evening, both Sagar and Sushma went to visit Shiv's parents. Sagar had no difficulty in locating the house, although he was visiting it after almost 15 years. An old wrinkled man opened the door, and then stood peering at the couple, straining his eyes trying to recognize them. Yes, whom do you want to see? Well, actually I have come to meet Shiv. I am an old friend. We used to study together in school. Is he still here in Chamba, or has he shifted out? Sagar shuffled his feet and the old man further narrowed his eyes, gazing at him, examining him from top to bottom. Who are you? He asked after a gap of half a minute. I am. Wait a minute, aren't you Sagar? He hesitated. Or am I mistaken? My eyes have grown old and weak. The old man smiled faintly. You are absolutely right, uncle. I am indeed Sagar. The old man nodded his head and beckoned the couple. Come in, what a pleasant surprise. In fact, my wife and I were talking about you just. Yesterday. The small sitting room hadn't changed at all. The same maroon sofa, 2 wooden chairs with straight backs, rectangular central table, even the same maroon and beige striped curtains were the same, though now faded and at places stitched roughly to mend the torn portions. Nothing had changed. To Sagar it seemed that time had stood still here, in this small house. A 40 watts bulb spread a dim, gloomy light in the room, and Sagar shivered in the cold as he sat on the sofa. Sushma sat next to him, feeling equally uncomfortable. An old woman, gray-haired and bent with age, entered the room to greet the guests. Who are these young people? She asked and waited for her husband to introduce them. Do you remember Sagar, Shiv's friend? See how much he has changed. Oh my God. Shiv's friend, Sagar? The old woman rushed to embrace Sagar. She wrapped her arms so tightly around him that he felt suffocated. Then she fell into his arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Her shoulders shook with sobs, and deep moans escaped her lips. Sushma and Sagar were puzzled at her conduct. The old man shut his eyes tightly. 2 drops of tears escaped them and he wiped them with the back of his hand. After a few minutes, he got up, walked to the sofa, and gently led his wife away to make her sit on a chair. Beta, do not mind her behavior. She is a broken woman ever since she lost her only child our Shiv. What? Sagar almost jumped out of his seat. Yes, Beta, we lost Shiv in a bus accident. It's been almost a year now. Oh my God. I didn't know about it at all. The news of the accident was all over in the national and local papers. 10 people had died in that accident. Our Shiv was one of the unlucky 10. I think I read about the accident, but had no idea about SHIV. Shiv's mother sighed. Her voice was choking when she spoke. He had come to visit us for 2 weeks. We had fixed his marriage to a lovely girl. He had promised to come again after 2 months for a formal engagement. But it wasn't meant to be. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. The bus by which he was returning to work fell into a 200 feet deep gorge. A painful sigh escaped her lips. Sagar was stunned. He didn't know how to console the poor parents. He couldn't imagine the pain they were going through. And he hadn't even known about the tragedy that had shattered their lives. He should have come to console them earlier. Both of us are dead too, from inside. Shiv's father spoke, looking at his distraught wife. And he was so attached to you, Sagar. Shiv's mother sighed. There was this time, a few years ago we were attending a family wedding at Dalhousie. Someone asked Shiv if he felt lonely, being the only child. Without batting an eye, he had said, I have a brother, Sagar, so how can I be lonely? Sagar had tears in his eyes. He had no idea about the strong feelings Shiv had for him. Yes, Shiv had been a special friend, but that was all. Even Kishore, another schoolmate, was an equally close friend of his. Shiv's father continued, that fateful day before he left, he was talking about you. "Do you wonder where's Sagar now?" he had said. "I miss him so much. I haven't had a friend like him ever since we separated. But I will visit his parents and check on him. I'll dig him out from wherever he is hiding. He has to attend my wedding." The old lady sighed and continued, "How much he loved you, Sagar. You were like the brother he never had." All the discussions that evening were centered on the deceased. Sagar and Sushma stayed with Shiv's parents for as long as they could, promising to visit them often. Sagar and Sushma returned home in very low spirits. Sagar was silent throughout their walk back home. The shock of the death of a friend in the prime of his life had left him stunned. That night, Shiv was back in Sagar's dream. The same dream, the same scene of the hockey match in Shaugan, and at the end of which Shiv once again came to Sagar and asked him to go with him. This time he even held his arm to pull him along, and that was the time Sagar woke up with a start. He was sweating profusely. This is odd. Why is the same dream repeating with precision, and so often? The following day was a holiday. After breakfast, Sagar and Sushma sat with their parents on the first floor veranda, basking in the sun. It was then that Sagar broke the news of Shiv's demise to his parents. Sagar's father instantly responded, "We know about that terrible accident. 2 people we knew had died in the accident, Shiv and my distant cousin Roshan." "Do you remember Roshan? Why didn't you tell me about it earlier?" Sagar asked, annoyed. "It never occurred to me that you would be interested. Frankly, I had forgotten about it. Dad, Shiv was a very good friend. I felt foolish going to his house without knowing that he had died in an accident." "I know he was your good friend, but then you have hardly been in touch with him. At least, I haven't heard you mention him for a long time." That silenced Sagar. His father was right. He had become so busy in life that he had completely neglected remaining in touch with his old friends. Sagar sat with his head bowed. "Shiv has been visiting me in my dreams. Often," he declared gently. Though the statement was made casually, it had the opposite effect. Everyone looked at him in concern. "Visiting you in your dreams? What do you mean?" His mother couldn't mask her alarm. "I keep dreaming of him time and again. And the strange part is that it is the same dream each time, of us playing that last match of hockey that we had. Him, just before joining college, at the end of which Shiv tells me to go with him." "Where?" Sushma's eyes widened in horror. "I don't know. He simply asks me to go with him and then I wake up. Sagar, I need to buy fruits to make juice for Ankur. Let's go now, so that we can be back before lunch." Sushma got up in a huff, and after picking up Ankur, she strode towards the stairs. Sagar stared at her receding back. What was wrong with her? Getting up thus in the middle of a serious discussion. But, left with no choice, he followed her. Feeling disgruntled, his parents watched them go. What happened to Sushma? Why did she run away in the middle of the discussion? Sagar's mother queried, more to herself. Sagar's father was clearly displeased. Strange. The subject is serious and needs to be probed further. He hasn't been himself lately. Haven't you noticed? When Sagar reached the foot of the staircase, Sushma had already fetched her purse and was waiting near the main gate. Seeing Sagar come towards her, she quickly walked out, expecting him to follow. Why are you in such a hurry, Sush? But Sushma was trotting away in urgency, and Sagar had to run to keep up with her. Where are you running away to? The fruit shops are not going to close for another 8 hours. What's the hurry? Sagar, I'm not going to buy fruits. I am going to see the priest. We need his advice urgently. And why didn't you tell me about the dream earlier? What's the great deal about a simple dream? Don't we dream every night? No, Sagar, it is different. Nobody sees the same dream time and again. I think it is very serious. It could be a part of the uncanny experiences you have been undergoing ever since we came here. Sagar walked silently for a while, pondering. You know, I didn't think much of the dream till yesterday. It troubled me only last night, since I had come to know that Shiv has been dead for many months. The priest patiently listened to Sagar with concern. Then he counseled, when somebody dies young, and violently, at times the spirit remains hovering around trying to meet its unfulfilled desires. Sagar nodded. This appears the case this time. All you need to do is to counter the dream. Counter the dream? How can that be done? Sagar looked at the priest. Cynically. You will need to develop a strong willpower. Every night, meditate and pray before sleeping. The next time the dream comes, tell the deceased man to go his way. Tell him strongly that you do not intend to go with him, because your ways are now different. But it is a dream, not a coffee table conservation. Sagar couldn't restrain his derision. I know that, young man. But the mind is a very powerful thing that we carry inside our skulls. Apart from what we feel and see through our conscious mind, there is an equally strong subconscious. If you repeatedly tell yourself something, it may get lodged in your subconscious, and then even in your sleep state, you can control your mind. Please explain to me exactly what I have to do. Very simple. Just pray regularly, and before falling asleep, repeat the lines you have to tell the dead entity in your dream. That's all? Will it work? It may not work immediately, but you will have to strengthen your willpower. Eventually, I believe, it will work. I hope. Sagar and Sushma returned home in better spirits. The priest has given such an easy solution to the tough problem, Sushma endorsed. That night Sagar followed the priest's directive before sleeping and after meditation and prayers, repeated the lines he wanted to speak in his dream to counter the inimical proposal. Sure enough, the dream was repeated that night. When the time came to leave the field and Shiv came to him, Sagar wriggled in discomfort. He couldn't say a word, but his body language very clearly protested the offer. I am lonely, Sagar, please come with me. Suddenly Shiv was no more a young boy but a full-grown man, like the one he had seen in a picture at his parents' house. The transition shocked Sagar even in his dream, and he squirmed and moaned in distress, which woke up Sushma. Sagar, wake up, she shook him. Wake up, Sagar. The expression on Sagar's face startled her. Slowly, Sagar opened his eyes. Where is he? Has he gone? Who? Who was here? Sushma blurted. Shiv. He looks so different now. Looks different now? What do you mean? By now, Sagar was fully awake. He looked around frantically, and then his gaze slowly came to rest on Sushma. Shiv is no more a young boy. He's a grown man. Of course, he was a grown man, Sagar. When I last met him, he was a young boy. But I saw him as a man just now. Sushma was frightened by this conversation. She peered in the dark of the night to see if there really was someone around. Where did you see him? In my dream. Did you tell him to go away? No, not really. But I was trying to squirm out of his grip. Sagar, you need to strengthen your willpower. Sushma shivered and slipped close to Sagar. She was getting terribly distressed. Why were such strange events occurring in their life? Why was Sagar undergoing such a weird experience? Till they hadn't shifted to Chamba, life had been running smoothly, without any hassles. For the first time, Sushma felt it was a mistake to accept this posting, despite the fact that Sagar's parents had been so happy to have them here. They were old and leading a lonely life. Yet, she now wanted to leave this place and go elsewhere. She would by convince Sagar to take a transfer, she decided. Shiv returned in Sagar's dream 2 days later. This time there was no replay of the hockey match. Shiv was simply standing at a door, as a grown-up, smiling and beckoning Sagar. "Come with me," he said. Sagar wanted to avoid him, and in his dream, he tried turning away, but whichever way he went, a door appeared in front of him. A faint light was coming through the door, and Shiv was standing in the middle with an extended hand, calling him to come to him. Finally, Sagar collected his strength and blurted loudly, "I can't come with you. You go your way." The loud declaration woke Sushma up. Sagar was sitting, his face dripping with sweat. "Bravo, Sagar. You did it." "I did what?" "You told Shiv to go his way, exactly the way the priest had advised." "Yes, I think I did." Sagar took a deep breath and, feeling pleased, wrapped his arms around Sushma. They both remained awake for a while, waiting in silence, as if there would be some repercussion to the bold action taken in the dream. The night remained still and calm. A dog whined in the distance. Some scraping sound was heard from an adjacent roof, like the claws of a roosting bird brazing against the slate. There was nothing out of the ordinary. Soon the couple, cozy in each other's arms and comforted by each other's presence, drifted into an undisturbed sleep. The dream stopped. There were none in the coming week. It was an alleged victory, a tough battle won at last. Sagar's parents remained in the dark to the happenings all this while. On the following Sunday, when they were once again enjoying a free, relaxed time, Sagar's father raised the topic. "Sagar, are you still having those bizarre dreams?" "No, Dad, I am fine. It must have been some passing phase. Since I have come to stay in my hometown after a very long time, perhaps old memories flooded my mind and triggered strange dreams." "Quite possible." Sushma nodded her head, ardently endorsing the statement. This was a very satisfying and comfortable explanation. Perhaps they were unnecessarily making a mountain out of a molehill. This logic helped Sagar more than anybody else. He was getting pointlessly worked up, getting drawn into something non-existent. With this rationality, peace returned to his mind and life. The Siri incidents began to take a back seat, slowly filtering out of his mind. He concentrated on his work with more ease. The beginning of April brought a number of festivals and holidays. Ram Navami, followed by Good Friday, added to the long weekend. One evening, Sagar suggested that they needed to keep up their promise and go to visit Shiv's parents. It was much after their evening tea that the idea had cropped up. Sushma was a bit hesitant. "Sagar, it's too late. I need to help Maji in the kitchen. I won't be comfortable letting her cook dinner all by herself." Sagar instantly hollered at his mother, who was at that moment in her bedroom. "Ma, do you need Sasha's help tonight, or can she be spared?" "We were thinking of visiting Shiv's parents." No, I don't need help. You both can go and have a nice evening. Leave Ankur with us. We'll look after him." The evening was beautiful. After the intense winter cold, the warm weather was like a rainbow following a storm. They both walked leisurely through the narrow cobbled lanes of Chamba. At the end of Bangota Mohalla, they reached the intersection from which branched out a number of streets, including the one that bypassed Akhan Chandi Palace and went down through a steep sloping alley to Shagan. Another lane led to the famous Lakshmi Narayan temple. Sagar halted here. Old memories invaded his mind all of a sudden. He used to visit the temple almost daily during his childhood with his mother, carrying her plate of diyas made of kneaded flour and homemade wicks burning in ghee. Later he often visited the temple with his friends. With Shiv, how and when those beautiful childhood days had vanished, life hadn't even given him enough spare time to think. A pain now shot in his heart, filling him with nostalgia. There was a large peepal tree at this juncture, with a cemented stockade around it. A lone man sat on it, a sad figure, his back slumped, head bowed. As Sagar and Sushma passed by the peepal tree, Sagar threw a glance at him. The young man raised his head. He seemed familiar. Where had he seen him? After a few more steps, Sagar turned to look back. Perhaps he knew the man and should have greeted him. But there was no one there. Within seconds, the man had disappeared. Sagar went pale. Didn't he resemble the man from his dreams? He walked on quietly. Sushma noted his pale, disturbed face, but stopped short of probing him. Dusk had set in by the time they reached Shiv's parents' house at the far end of the narrow street. A weak bulb on a tall lamppost illuminated the street softly. There was complete silence around. Not a soul could be spotted. A disquieting sensation encased both Sagar and Sushma, leaving them sad. On reaching the house, they were disappointed to see a large lock hanging on the door of the house. Should we wait for their return? They couldn't have gone far, perhaps only to fetch provisions. Sagar suggested. How do we know, Sagar? They could have gone visiting friends. For how long will we wait? Ankur may get cranky if we don't get home soon. Let's go back. Okay, madam, as you say? Holding Sushma's hand in his, Sagar began walking back. When they reached the end of the street, they both heard a male voice from behind, clear and crisp. Sagar, wait. Shiv's parents are back, Sagar declared cheerfully, and turned back. They both once again walked back to the house. Sushma felt a little uneasy, since she couldn't spot anyone in the street. This side of the town was unusually deserted today. Unlike the rest of the town, they were once again standing in front of the same doorstep, but the big lock still hung there. Prominently and coldly. Who called out your name? Sushma looked around anxiously, fear creeping into her bones. Sagar nervously shrugged his shoulders. They hurriedly retreated their steps and moved away from the house. Once back home, they decided to ignore the weird experiences of the evening, although their hearts remained uneasy. In fact, for the next 2 days that Sagar was at home, he felt listless and gloomy. As much as he tried, he couldn't perceive what really was wrong. With the holidays over, Sagar returned to his work more ardently. As a divisional officer of the district, he was required to undertake intense touring to inspect the projects underway. It was time to begin. After his first major staff meeting, a few matters cropped up which required his immediate attention. He needed to visit some far-off and higher regions in the district, but most of them were still under a thick cover of snow. June would be better for touring those places. Also, there were quite a few complaints of the slow progress of work in the subdivision of Tissa. Sagar decided he would begin by traveling to this small settlement about 63 kilometers north of Chumba town. That wasn't far, but it would take somewhere about 3 hours to reach since it was a rough, jagged, mountainous road. He fixed the second Tuesday of May for his tour to Tissa. On that Monday of May, he returned home a little early to pack for the tour that he was going on the next morning. Ankur was delighted to see his father back early and demanded his attention. Sagar readily obliged. He knew Ankur was going to miss him since he was going to be away after a very long time. He smiled, thinking how he would pester Sushma frequently with the same question: when is Papa coming home? With love copiously pouring out of his heart, he picked and hugged Ankur. No, Papa, no hugs. I want to play cricket with you. Okay, champion boss, get your cricket set. Ankur ran to fetch his small bat and ball. They played cricket in the courtyard. After half an hour of shouting, running, arguing, and mirth, Sushma took a protesting Ankur away for his evening glass of milk and Sagar went inside to pack. It took him barely 10 minutes to pack a small suitcase he would take with him on his 2-day trip. Packing over, he sat down to go through his official files. The twilight gradually faded, making way for the nightly shadows. Sagar realized it only when his eyes began to be strained. He needed to switch on the light, but he sat limp and still, shivering in the sudden unexplained cold. Depression slowly engulfed his whole body. He was thus sitting in the dark, lost and immobile, when Sushma came down to check on him. "Are you all right, Sagar?" she asked with concern, switching on the light and wrapping her arms around him. Sagar jumped out of his reverie. "I am fine." He looked around as if he was in completely new surroundings. "I must have dozed off, was dreaming of a strange place." Running his hand through his hair, he stood up. "Let's go up. Dinner is ready." Sushma held his hand. Sagar docilely followed her. "I don't know why I don't feel too well," he confessed, climbing up the stairs. "You must sleep early. You have a long day tomorrow. Or, on second thought, maybe you should postpone your tour." "No, it's better I get done with it." Once in the kitchen, Sagar sat next to the open window. As usual, he felt much better up here. The cool breeze was refreshing. He could see Shogun and the bazaar illuminated in different shades of lights. It looked so different from his childhood days when the houses would be mutely lighted with earth and oil lamps. The darkness of the night then would be so utterly blatant and enchanting. Yet, like any child, he would yearn for daylight when he could play with his friends. Studies always came secondary. Sagar smiled at the thought. He mentioned it to Sushma, who made a face. "I wouldn't want that for Ankur." "Maybe not. But he will definitely be allowed a lot of playtime. Always." Sagar declared merrily and then suddenly stiffened. Blood drained from his face. Sagar's father was sitting with Ankur on the mat, both playing some childish games. His mother was pouring curries into small bowls to serve dinner to everyone. Sushma was laying the plates when she stopped midway in response to Sagar's reaction and found him gazing at something outside. She left her work to join Sagar at the window. "What's wrong, Sagar?" she whispered. "See that person standing at the main gate? He's looking up at me. I've seen him a number of times. It's the same shadow." Sagar was shivering. Sushma was startled. The main gate was wide open. They might have forgotten to slip the bolt today. But the door was shut when they came up. Who opened it? Was it because of the wind? Only a light breeze was blowing at the moment. The door panels were heavy, made of solid walnut wood. "Sagar, I see no one." Sushma peered into the muted light with narrowed eyes. "Can't you see that shadow, on the side, standing on the first step?" he whispered nervously. Sushma stuck her face out of the window to scrutinize intently, but she didn't particularly see anybody. Then she felt a faint movement, as if something had moved. It was too faint, like a faded shadow of a large bird flying overhead. She shrugged. "I don't think there is anybody there," she declared, even though her heart was racing. Perhaps Sagar had been right all this time. There was definitely someone there. She quickly withdrew from the window. "He's gone now," Sagar articulated in a spooky whisper. Sushma glanced at him and immediately knew that Sagar had recognized the man, the specter. It made her uneasy. "Come, Sagar, let's cat." Sushma tried to distract him. "I forgot to close the main gate." "Then do it now, before we sit down to eat," his father directed. Sagar didn't respond. Neither did he budge from his seat. He was obviously extremely reluctant to go down. "I would have done it, but climbing down and then up the 2 flights will take me so much more time. Food will be cold by the time I finish," his father remarked, still waiting for Sagar to do what he asked for. "What's the hurry?" "When we go down to sleep, I'll shut it," Sushma proposed. "Our town doesn't have thieves or criminals, so it doesn't matter if the door is shut now or later." Sagar's mother rested the matter, and the family sat to have their meal together. The family retired for the night immediately after dinner. Sagar walked to the entrance door and lingered there longer than necessary. He had clearly seen the shadow here, whereas Sushma had seen nothing. had it been his imagination? But he had not been imagining anything at that moment. He had been admiring the beauty of Chumba at night. He shook his head to discard the fearful doubt from his mind. He was starting the journey at 8 in the morning, and decided to immediately go to bed. The morning sky was overcast with heavy dark clouds. Sagar woke up to a distant rumbling of the approaching thunderstorm. He felt disturbed and restless. The roads were ragged, and it was going to be even worse if it rained. Should he postpone the tour? But then his staff was waiting for him at Tissa. He hadn't even been able to sleep well last night. Ever since he had come to live here, he had always slept fitfully. This was draining him out. "Sush, I am thinking that once I return from my tour, we'll shift to the first floor," he announced as Sushma brought him his breakfast. "But there's not enough room there, Sagar. Only one spare bedroom." "What about our baby's nursery?" "Sush, we'll convert the small study room into our children's room. I don't feel good staying down here anymore. We'll discuss it after you come back. Right now, I need to rush to pack your lunch. Could you please pack some extra for my assistant? He's going with me. He's a bachelor, and I doubt he'll bother to cook for himself early in the morning." "Sure. Finish your breakfast. Your jeep will be here soon." At 5 minutes to 8, the peon arrived to take Sagar's luggage. The vehicle was parked a little distance away, since it could not be brought at the doorstep. The street was too narrow. "I'll run up to say bye to Ma and Dad," Sagar announced. But he didn't have to. They both had walked down to send him off. After quick hugs and leave-taking, Sagar walked out. His family stood on the steps outside the entrance, bidding him goodbye. "Daddy, come back soon," Ankur called out in his half-sleepy tone. "Sagar, I'll miss you," Sushma added. "Take care, Beta," the parents said. Sagar turned and gave one last affectionate nod and a tender smile to his family. He loved them all so much. They all watched him tenderly till he disappeared around the curve. Sagar came home the next day, but only as a lifeless body on a stretcher, wrapped in a blood-stained white sheet. All that had remained of him was a bloodied tangled mass. His spirit had been freed from the body. His jeep had rolled down 200 feet deep into a gorge, 30 miles beyond Chumba. His assistant too had died in the accident, though the driver and the peon had miraculously survived. They both had managed to jump out of the vehicle in the nick of time, just as the jeep had begun to roll down the steep hill. 2 days later, shaken and distraught, the driver of the ill-fated jeep, also named Shiv Kumar, came to Sushma to express his remorse. Wrapped in a white sari, her eyes stony and distant, her mind unaccepting the fact that Sagar was never coming back to her, Sushma seemed like a crumpled young twig lying on a cold lonely path. Shiv Kumar stood next to her, feeling immensely. "Memsahib, I'm devastated, have not been able to sleep a wink since the accident. I don't understand what happened that day. It's all so weird. And after I jumped out of the vehicle, I helplessly watched the jeep roll down with Sahib in it. I panicked, tried running downhill after it, but after a few steps, the mountain was too steep. By then, the jeep had rolled so far down that I couldn't even see it. I couldn't help Sahib." A sob escaped his lips. "I became hysteric. The villagers working on their fields heard my screams and rushed to help us. But what could they do? The hill wall was straight, the jeep was too deep down for them to retrieve, or help the passengers who had gone down with it." Sushma whispered haltingly, through her dry painful throat, "Then who brought Sagar up from the ravine?" "The village postmaster called for help. Almost after 2 hours of wait, a few army soldiers arrived, with ropes and material to climb down the steep mountain." Sushma glanced at her little fatherless child restless in his sleep, his cheeks stained with tears. She wiped her tears with the corner of her sari. The leaves of the lime tree rustled in the midday breeze. Shiv Kumar controlled his moans and sighed. "Memsahib, I heard a soldier say to another, this is an ill-fated spot. Isn't this the exact spot where a state transport bus had rolled down last year? Remember, we had retrieved 10 dead bodies then?" He shuddered, but failed to notice Sushma's sudden reaction. "I was left aghast. Unbelievable, Memsahib. The same soldiers had retrieved 10 bodies from the same spot a year ago. Can you believe it? Sushma gaped at him, open-mouthed. Her dilated eyes exuded pure fear and alarm. Shiv Kumar now looked at her and couldn't comprehend her unexpected reaction. He went on, Memsahib, I don't even remember clearly about the accident, it was so sudden. I was driving around a curve, and I don't know if the brakes failed, or... All I remember is that I was desperately trying to turn the steering wheel and it just wouldn't. It had got jammed. I kept hitting the brake, but the jeep went straight down the hill. The distraught man sniffled. It's not normal at all. He shook his head. I have driven vehicles for almost 25 years now, ever since I got a license at 20. I am a very careful driver, never drive rashly, but this time I just can't explain. Sushma slumped on a chair. Tears were openly flowing down her tightly shut eyes. She was visibly trembling. Shiv Kumar lowered his eyes. And I am going back home now, to do farming. No more driving for me. A sudden, heart-rending wail from the upper floor raved through the air. The bereaved mother's cry hit the traumatized man like a thunderbolt. He collapsed on his haunches next to the chair and sobbed like a child. I can't face Sahib's parents. What will I say to them? I have broken their hearts. I have crushed you all, Memsahib, crushed you all, he wept openly. Sushma remained motionless. Memsahib, I'm sorry. I beg you to forgive me. It wasn't my fault, Shiv Kumar spoke through his sobs and buried his face in his hands. Sushma slowly opened her eyes and stared at Shiv's slumped back, shaking with sobs. A large painful lump in her throat choked her. She shifted her gaze to the steps on the main door, now open wide to allow people to visit them to offer their condolences. There was a profound loneliness beyond. Of course, Shiv, it wasn't your fault. Not at all, she turned towards him and whispered through her pain. From the corner of her eye, Sushma noted some movement on the steps. Was there a visitor? Instinctively her glance returned to the open door. She froze. 2 hazy ghostly figures stood on the top step of the door, holding hands. Horrified, she watched one figure slowly raise its hand towards her, beckoning her.